accounts for 70% of this planet, and we are killing it. After years of fishing, diving, and snorkeling in the waters off the coast of South Florida, I have seen firsthand that this planet and its inhabitants are suffering and how dramatically climate change is affecting our oceans. Climate change is responsible for a rise in ocean temperatures throughout the world and can also be attributed to the bleaching of our coral reefs, just like those I've seen with my own eyes in South Florida. These are just the early signs of what is to come, and with each passing day, climate change takes a more severe and irreversible toll on our planet and the precious waters that line our coasts. Today, I'll be talking about what is causing climate change and how it is affecting our oceans, and in turn, how that can affect us. Climate change is something almost everyone is familiar with to at least some extent. I'm sure you've all heard of it at some point or another, and I'm going to assume that you all know climate change is responsible for a global rise in average temperatures, and that it's caused by carbon dioxide emissions. But you may not know what that means for our oceans and for us. Warmer air naturally leads to warmer water, but what does that mean beyond just fish enjoying a nice long year-round summer? Warmer ocean temps can lead to the bleaching of coral reefs, which are home to millions of different species of marine life and crustaceans. You may be wondering, how exactly does warmer water bleach or kill coral reefs? When water is too warm, corals will expel the algae called zooxanthellae, living in their tissues, which causes the coral to turn completely white. This leaves the coral's immune system very weak and makes them subject to disease and death, effectively endangering them or killing entire habitats. Now that we know that they are in peril, what is the importance of coral reefs, and why does it matter if they're subject to disease? Coral reefs are home to millions of species of marine wildlife and act as shelter from hurricanes and predators. Perhaps 1/4 of all ocean life call a coral reef home, and they depend on these coral reefs for food and shelter. Corals in many ways can be considered the cities of the sea. Now, this is important to us as humans in a number of ways, one of which can be expressed by a number. According to USeconomy.com, that number would be $172 billion US. That is the estimated worth of coral reefs. They provide everything from food to jobs and tourism revenue, and even life-saving medicines that cannot be found elsewhere. The Great Barrier Reef, for example, on the northern shores of Australia, the largest in the entire world, which also stands to be the largest living organism on the planet, has been bleached at 93%, according to ScienceAlert.com. One of the greatest natural wonders of the world is estimated to be worth nearly $63 billion. You may be left wondering, why is this something I need to know? Why is this something that someone living in central Michigan should care about, the climate changing or the oceans warming, much less the reefs way down below? Well, climate change has many potential adverse effects for humans in our near future. According to the United Nations Climate Change Conference found on UN.org, climate change is set to take a catastrophic turn for the worse in approximately 12 years. A simple rise in global average temperature is expected to reach 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit by 2030. Now, this would have an absolutely devastating effect not only in our oceans, but here on land for us. This seemingly small rise in temperature, according to Vox.com and numerous U.S. scientists, including Secretary General Antonio Guterres, will lead to intense, damaging storms, rising ocean levels due to the melting of glaciers, intense famines caused by overwhelming drought in some areas, and floods in others, which could also cause mass migration. When our crops don't grow and the seas begin to rise, we may want to turn to the ocean for our food and its bountiful abundance of fish and resources. However, those resources will be depleted or at least reduced dramatically by this time, thanks again to the bleaching of our precious coral reefs. But how do we know this is happening? What is it that's tipping us off almost just in the nick of time that there's something terribly wrong with our atmosphere and it is only getting worse? For starters, we already mentioned the bleaching of our coral reefs. But where else? The shorelines are slowly being pushed back invading our land because the glaciers in the poles are melting at record rates. Areas with low altitudes are seeing the effects as we speak. For example, according to the Sun Sentinel, a South Florida newspaper, the cities of Miami and Fort Lauderdale have spent a combined $400 million on water pumps and raising seawalls, and even pushing roads away from the coast to protect cities from the likely flooding soon to ensue. We have all had some kind of experience thanks to climate change. Whether you notice the unusually and almost unbearably hot summer days this summer, or if you've experienced intense storms and unusual weather patterns in the last 10 years or so. I'm going to tell you all about exactly how climate change has shown its teeth to me in my life personally. Diving in South Florida, I have seen bleach reefs with my own eyes. Once beautiful underwater cities teeming with life now lay barren. Places I love to spend time have been all but stripped with life. I've spent hours sitting in traffic on Highway A1A along the coast of Fort Lauderdale as construction workers are working on a 2-year project to push the famous highway only but a few feet away from the invading coastline. I've experienced strangely hot days even here in Michigan, hearing on the news almost every summer that we've hit a record temperature or that we have experienced the hottest month of August in the last 25 years. The unpredictable weather patterns that climate change tags along with it have certainly dampened my plans of going out on more than one occasion. Even experiencing intense winters here in Michigan can also be attributed to climate change. In conclusion, climate change is very real and its effects can be catastrophic, not only for nature and the wildlife that calls it home, but for all that live here on planet Earth, including us humans. Climate change has already shown its effects in many, many ways, and it's mostly irreversible. Well, I want to thank you guys for listening so intently, and I'm glad to have been able to inform you guys on such an important topic. Thanks a lot, guys.